Hi there folks. Today we've got a Marlin Model 60 22 semi-auto rifle to look at. And this Marlin is one of the more recent production ones, made after Marlin was purchased by Remington. And that has not been a happy thing for most Marlin owners. But this seems to be a reasonably decent little 22 rifle in my experience with it so far. You can see that this example wears the brown laminate stock, which is rather handsome, I think. It even has the Marlin logo on the plastic butt plate. Fairly plain little 22 overall. We have a plastic trigger group, which is not spectacular, but it does seem to do the job. Crossbolt safety here. You can see with the safety pushed over in that position, we are on safe, and push through the other way, that's fire. Got our bolt release latch here, or knob. A takedown screw on the bottom, which is loosened up or tightened with an Allen wrench. This is a blowback operated 22, as almost all 22 semi-autos are. The receiver is grooved for the standard tip-off type narrow 22 scope mounts. I've got a set of Weaver rings on it and a fairly economical 3x9 scope on top of that. Rifle comes standard with these iron sights. Kind of hard to see them underneath the scope there. You can see it's just a standard type of U-notch sight with a adjustable slider to adjust for windage. Got the usual warnings on the barrel that everybody slaps on everything nowadays. This is an under-barrel tubular magazine, and it's loaded by means of this port here. It holds 14 rounds of 22 long rifle, and we've got a blade type front sight, and it's held on with a screw. So nothing real spectacular about this. It is a pretty plain utilitarian sort of 22, but there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have everything fancy, and the price on these is a pretty reasonable price for an American-made 22 rifle with a wood stock. I think I got this one for about $170, which is quite a good deal. Well, flip it over and look at the other side. So we'll start off on the other side by the muzzle, and the barrel profile is rather heavy. You could almost call it a semi-bull barrel. I've got the tape measure set out beside it here to remind myself that this is a 19-inch barrel, kind of an odd length. You would expect either 18.5 or 20, but it's 19. You can see the front of the magazine tube here, and the magazine is accessed or loaded by rotating the knurled portion, and it catches in those grooves. The magazine tube is supported at the front end by a bracket, and it's sort of dovetailed into the barrel itself. So we'll move down to the markings on the barrel. And as you can see here, it says the Marlin Firearms Company, Mayfield, Kentucky, USA. And Model 60, this says the micro groove barrel, caliber 22 long rifle only. And so far in my experience, this rifle works better with high velocity loadings. The receiver is an aluminum alloy. Serial number is hiding underneath those patches there. And move back a little further, you can see that the stock has a little bit of a raised comb, but it doesn't have any cheek piece. It's a pretty comfortable stock, adult sized. I have no complaints about that from my use of it so far. So to load the Marlin Model 60, I suggest that you put the safety catch on first. You can see the crossbolt safety there. If the red is exposed, that's in the fire position, so put the safety catch on there because it's necessary to stick your hands up near to the muzzle, so you really don't want anything to go wrong. Check the chamber to make sure the chamber is empty. You can see the bolt is locked back. It should lock back on an empty chamber. So after we're sure the rifle is unloaded and the safety catch is applied, we can move up to the front end here and turn the magazine tube, the knurled part, so that these catches are disengaged, and withdraw the magazine tube until the loading port is exposed. You can see once again why we want to make sure the rifle's unloaded, because we have our hands up past the front of the muzzle, so that's one of the downsides to a tubular magazine design like this. You can see here the magazine port is exposed, and it's got a slot in it to make sure you can only drop the rounds in it in the correct alignment. So you can just drop the rounds in there, keeping the muzzle elevated at an angle so that the rounds fall down into the tube. And once you've got all 14 rounds loaded up, the last one should stay visible in the magazine tube. I probably should have had a table closer by here so I'm not turning around all the time to get these to load. And we'll keep loading away. One of the advantages to tubular magazines is that they don't get lost, and they very seldom ever break. So there's the 14th round. You can see the 14th one stays exposed. So we'll go back up to the follower with the brass tube on it, and we'll push that down until it lines up with these catches, and turn the catches, and the chamber, or the magazine I should say, is now loaded. So to charge the rifle, we have to drop the bolt first. So we want to push the bolt release lever, and then pull it back once again, and then let it go. And now the rifle is ready to fire. So we've got the safety catch on. All we've got to do now to fire it is release the safety and squeeze the trigger. So let's have a look at a few groups fired with the Marlin Model 60. These were all 10-shot groups fired at approximately 50 yards. And the first group, this one here, was fired with CCI Blazer. This is the stuff that came out of the bulk pack, 525 round pack. And you can see each of those squares are 1 inch, so you can do the math there yourself. I might measure these when I get home, but I'm not going to measure them out here. We'll just use those square blocks as reference. So that's the CCI Blazer. That's a 40 grain high velocity round nose unplated. The next group here was fired with this rather craptastic Winchester T22 target, which I'm just trying to use up. And it's all over the place. By the way, I fired about 5 rounds of each before I fired these groups, just to condition the barrel. I know to be really scientific you'd have to clean the barrel between each type, but I just don't have the time or the effort for that today. So basically I fired 5 shots of each round into the backstop, and then I fired the 10 shots for group. Next up, we have this Remington 22 Thunderbolt, and it's a round nose high velocity round. Not a bad group, except for this one. We've got 9 in here in a nice little group, and this one dropped out. And that one audibly sounded different. That one sounded much quieter than these ones. I would say this one was underloaded. In fact, I think I had to manually cycle the action after this one fired. So other than that one dropping out, that's a pretty reasonable size group. Next up, we've got this Federal Champion, 40 grain, solid, round nose, and they're quoting the muzzle velocity at 1240. Usually pretty good shooting ammo. Not a great group in this case, a couple inches by the look of it. Alright, let's move down to some old Winchester Wildcat. And this is a high velocity round nose type load as well. This is another one where there was an audible difference between the rounds. You can see we've got looks like 7 shots here in a fairly decent group, just over an inch. A couple off to the side here, which opens it up, and then this one down below. And that one, once again, sounded quieter than the others, so it apparently was underloaded as well. We have another Federal product, American Eagle. This is 40 grain solid, round nose, high velocity. Reasonably good group. We've got 8 out of the 10 in about an inch. And we've got these other 2 off to the side that open it up a little bit. Alright, next up is my favorite sort of hyper velocity 22 loading. This is Remington Yellowjacket. And this particular stuff is pretty old. I've had it in my ammo locker for a while. I break out a bit every now and again to try, and it never seems to disappoint me. It's good stuff. And it also shot the best group of the day. There are the 10 shots from 50 yards. So just over an inch. Pretty respectable for a hyper velocity varmint smacking round. Alright, the last ammo type that I tried today was this Federal Gold Medal target ammo, 40 grain solid. This would be a standard velocity load. Really not a great load for a semi-auto that's designed to function with high velocity. But anyway, we tried a few. I had to manually cycle the action a couple of times because it is lower powered. But despite that, it shot a pretty good group overall. We were hovering right around the 1 inch mark by the looks of it. So that's not too bad a performance for all. The other standard velocity load that I had today, the Winchester T22, it also required a couple of manual charges of the gun because it doesn't really have enough power to cycle the action of this thing, and this thing's getting a little dirty at this point in time anyway, so I'm not really surprised. I really should take it apart and give it a clean